Koti Vaishnava Ki, Kamacharya Dasa Korti, Prem Se Kaho, Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakul Radhakul Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki, Gangamai Ki, Gangamai Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Dasi Devi Ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Gantara Shima Bhagavatam Ki, Ramana Bhakta Pati Ki, Nita Gaur Ki. All glories to His assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Grandpa. Glories to Shri Prabhupada. Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishnu Savitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Charamaya Bhakti Swavayantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttarakham Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vedantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Virjina Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Krishna Kavirtam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jilapate Gopisha Gopikanta Radhakanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gauragi Radhe Vrindavadeshwari Krishna Bhakti Pranamami Hare Panchakalpa Padudesha Hare Bhakti Devesha Patitanam Bhakti Vaishnavi Gauranga Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare. So good morning, Prabhus, on this very auspicious day of Dasi. So Lord Nrsimhadev is very important to us in our movement. He was first introduced in 1967, I believe, in ISKCON, when after Srila Prabhupada was enacting one of his pastimes of being sick. He had a second heart attack. And so during this time when he was very ill, he introduced the Nrsimhadev prayers to the devotees. He introduced this Tavakana Kamala Varena Kama Shingam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Dhanabhinam Keshavadrita Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare. So he asked the devotees to please pray to Lord Nrsimhadev that your spiritual master has not yet had time to finish his work. So please give him the opportunity to do so. So in this way, the devotees, they prayed to Lord Nrsimhadev all throughout the night and so forth. And Srila Prabhupada recovered enough that he was able to continue his preaching mission. And as we know, by studying Lilamrita and by hearing from Srila Prabhupada memories and by studying various sources of the history of ISKCON, that Srila Prabhupada went on to establish this worldwide movement. But this was very early on in 1967, and they just had a storefront at this time. So Lord Nrsimhadev is very important to the devotees because he removes obstacles to our devotional service. But also, it is said that the Lord appears in different incarnations, and each incarnation highlights sort of a feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna always comes for just a big purpose. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that he comes to deliver the pious, annihilate the miscreants, reestablish the principles of religion. But along with that, there's also a certain aspect of the Lord that is highlighted within incarnations. So when Krishna came as himself, He was trying to show the world his Vrindavan Leela, his sweet Vrindavan pastimes. In the incarnation of Lord Ramachandra, he was showing the ideal, how to be an ideal king, dharmic. He was setting the perfect example of that. And the incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's showing how to be a perfect devotee. He's also giving, it's a rare incarnation, he's giving all the fallen conditioned souls, regardless of their qualification, access to the highest, which is pure love of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. So it's a very rare incarnation. And in this incarnation of Lord Narasimha, several things are highlighted here, but two things we will focus on today. The first one, the Lord tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, he gives many instructions to Arjuna, but there's one particular instruction that he tells Arjuna, you tell everyone. And which one is this one? He doesn't say this with other instructions.
But devotee never perishes.
You declare this to the world, my devotee never perishes. Yes. And so, in this incarnation of Lord Narasimha, we see just this. And then also, the Bhagavatam, it kind of expands on the Bhagavad Gita. So you see the Lord's instructions that are in the Bhagavad Gita, you see it played out in pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Srimad Bhagavatam it's a conversation. These leelas are told by the asking of many questions. So another thing that this pastime brings out is that this pastime, it answers the question, is God himself impartial? Because before this pastime begins, this question is asked amongst Yudhishthira and Narada Muni. Yudhishthira is asking, why is Lord Vishnu always kind of siding with the demigods? As we know from reading Srimad Bhagavatam, it seems that the demigods and the asuras are what we would call the demons. They're always in battle with each other. And sometimes the asuras have the upper hand, and sometimes the demigods have the upper hand. But we always see that eventually the demigods kind of went out with the help of Lord Vishnu. So this question kind of is like, is Vishnu himself, is he impartial? And this question is probably one of the most asked questions in society when it comes to religion, along with why do good things happen to bad people. People wonder, does God have favorites? When I was at home visiting my family, I watched a documentary about the story of Moses. It was told by various scholars, and they told it from the perspective of like a Jewish scholar, a Muslim scholar, and several Christian scholars, because it's the only story that is really told in full in all three different religious traditions. And so, one of the things that was interesting that they brought out in this story is that during the story of Moses, one of the curses that God brings forth is that he kills the firstborn child of Pharaoh and everybody else in Egypt, one of the things that happens during one of the plagues. And so one of these scholars said, my daughter came home and asked me, well, Father, what about all these Egyptians? Like, does God have favorites? Why are their children also dying too? And he said, there's really no answer to that. And she asked the same question when Moses parted the sea and all the Pharisees went in and, the sea closed up and the child asked her father, why did they have to die? Aren't they God's children too? So the Bhagavatam answers all questions. And so it answers this, one of the things that this pastime does is it's also simultaneously answering this question, is God himself impartial to living entities? So this story begins, and I'll go through it for some that might not be so familiar, listening on YouTube, just briefly, not all the details. But the story begins you have these two great demons, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. And Hiranyakashipu is the older brother, Hiranyaksha is the younger brother. So previously, Hiranyaksha goes and he's very powerful demon, and he starts terrorizing the whole entire world. And people are very much afraid of him. Nobody can defeat him. And eventually his terrorizing the world gets to the point that he causes the earth to sink in the Garbanakshi ocean. And so Vishnu, wanting to save his devotee, goes and pulls the ocean out, the Garbanakshi, goes and pulls the earth out of the ocean. And, Hiranyaksha, he doesn't like this. So therefore he picks a fight with Vishnu. And in the form of Varaha. And Varaha fights fair. You can see there's one illustration where Hiranyaksha throws his club at Varaha, and Varaha catches it and hands it back, says strike. So it's a fair fight. But in this fight, Hiranyaksha loses, and he dies. Hiranyakashipu doesn't like this. So he starts thinking, oh, this Vishnu, he is partial. He is always siding with the Devas. This is unfair. He never sides with the Asura. So he gets very angry, along with the fact that his brother Hiranyaksha has died. And he declares that Vishnu is my enemy, and I will kill him. And not only does he declare this, but he goes forth and he tells his demonic friends, all right, so I want to defeat this Vishnu guy. How do I do it? Well, the Brahmanas are offering yagyas to the demigods, and they're giving the part of it to Vishnu, and he's getting so many sacrifices. So if we stop these sacrifices, Vishnu won't have anything, and therefore, all his devotees will ultimately perish. And so, reading through this 7th canto, and I haven't read this story in detail in a long time, but I noticed that before Hiranyakashipu gets all of his powers from his austerities, all these demons go out into the earth and they start terrorizing people. They start burning cities. It says they burn the Capitol. A couple years ago, I think we had a group of people storm the Capitol. This was 10 times worse. They start burning all the capitals. They start cutting down all the trees. Just total terrorizing the earth. Completely, kind of like we see happening now with certain personalities. And in this moment, eventually, Hiranyakashipu decides that if I'm going to defeat Lord Vishnu, I need to get some powers to do so. So he starts doing austerities. And he goes out, and as we've read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he's standing in this yogic position, and seems like he's really in control of his senses. I mean, the austerities that Hiranyakashipu is performing, no human being on this planet would probably be able to do them. And though it's interesting, it's said in the Srimad Purana that while he is performing these austerities, some demigods go in the form of birds to distract him. And because he has declared Vishnu his enemy, they're trying to distract him. And they go sit in a tree next to where he's performing these austerities. And they start saying, Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. He doesn't like this. He's doing his meditation. So, while he's doing his meditation, he gives up and he ultimately goes home, but he's thinking about this Narayan. So while he's thinking about this Narayan, he tries to distract himself with his wife, and ultimately she conceives Prahlad, and then he goes back to his austerities. But while he's doing his austerities, the demigods, seeing that Hiranyakashipu is getting powerful, he's this demon, they kidnap Kayadu because they're thinking, oh, she's pregnant with the child of this great demon. So therefore this child is also going to be a great demon. As we say in English, the apple never falls far from the tree. So they're thinking like this. But something happens. And this is very important. This goes back to this Arjuna, you declare my devotee never perishes. Narada Muni comes as the demigods are kidnapping Kayadu, and she's in great distress, as you can imagine. And he tells the demigods, no, do not take this lady, because the devotee, the child that she has in her womb is a great devotee. Therefore, you will not be able to kill him. And the demigods, realizing their mistake, are like, Kayadu, please forgive us, our bad. They pay her obeisances, they start circumambling Kayadu. And then Narada Muni takes her to his ashram. And while she's in his ashram, you can imagine she's just been kidnapped. She's just been kind of terrorized. And her child was in danger. So she still kind of has this fear. And so then Narada Muni explains to her again, Kayadu, don't worry, your child will not be defeated by any enemy. And he tells her, you can stay here until your husband comes back. And so she stays there with Narada Muni, but she's still a little bit nervous, thinking about her child, as a pregnant woman would if they thought somebody was about to kill her child. And she serves Narada Muni, and while she serves Narada Muni, he imparts the instructions of devotional service to her and to the child in her womb, Prahlad. And so Prahlad hears these instructions. But Kayadu, she's a bit preoccupied with the safety of her child, so therefore she can't really grasp them in the same way that Prahlad does. She forgets them. So Hiranyakashipu, he's doing his great austerities, and the demigods start to freak out because his austerities are getting so powerful that light's coming from his head, and they can see, oh my God, this demon, he's getting really, really powerful with these austerities. So they go to Brahma, and they tell Brahma about the situation, and Brahma decides, okay, I'll go settle it. So Brahma goes to Hiranyakashipu, and being, all compassionate, and Hiranyakashipu at this time that Brahma goes to him, he's been pretty much eaten away by ants. And Brahma has to kind of look to find him, because he's covered over by earth and everything like this. He's been there for a very, very long time. As I said, his austerities make him seem like he's completely in control of his senses. I mean, who else could do this? So, when Brahma comes, Hiranyakashipu comes out of all the ants and out of all the earth, and he appears like this freshly handsome guy, useful guy. So Brahma says, what would you like? I see you're doing these great austerities. What benediction can I give you? And Hiranyakashipu, the demons are very good in flattery. So Hiranyakashipu starts to flatter Lord Brahma a little bit, oh, you are the source of the creation, and things like this. And he says, please grant me immortality. And Brahma says, well, even I have to die. I can't give you something that I don't have. So Hiranyakashipu then thinks he wants to be immortal. Remember, he's got to get all this power. He's going to kill Vishnu, as he thinks. So he tries to cheat the system, as many of us try to do. Sometimes we're trying to get what we want. I have a nephew, and when I was with him, you cannot reason with him under any circumstances. We asked him, we were taking him to dinner, and he wanted our cousin to go. We said, I know she can't go. And he was trying to think, oh, you can call her mother, and you can just take her with us. He was trying to get around it in every single way possible, like children do to get their way. But as adults, we really don't grow out of this. We're always trying to get our way and try to get what we want. So Hiranyakashipu, he thinks of all the ways that one could possibly die. I don't want to be killed by any living creature, inside, outside, by any weapon, by any animal, thinks he checks all the boxes. And then he thinks, okay, I got it. Brahma grants it. And he even says, I want all the powers that you get from doing yogic austerities. Okay, you got it. And those are really hard to get generally. And so he gets all these powers, and then therefore he starts to terrorize the world. And once he does that, he even goes up to the demigods, because the demons are always trying to get their upper hand with the demigods. And Hiranyakashipu being their leader, he goes up to Indra's palace and he just kicks them out. Sits on Indra's palace, and then makes all the demigods become his servants. And they start serving him, bowing down to him, with the exception of 3 personalities who are these 3.
Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva.
Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the three personalities. They're the only ones that don't surrender to Hiranyakashipu. And so everyone else is serving him. Even the earth is producing all this opulence for Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu thinks, okay, I've got everyone under my control. And then later Prahlad is born. And Hiranyakashipu, he has 4 sons actually in the Bhagavatam. But the only one we ever really hear about is Prahlad Maharaj. And that's because Prahlad Maharaj, the devotees, they're eternally famous, they're eternally magnanimous. So Prahlad, out of all the 4 sons of Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj is really the only one we hear about.
Lavanga,
Yes.
can you tell us, do you know the backstory to how Prahlad, why he got in that womb?
Yeah.
Is now a good time or later?
You already told it.
Oh, you already told him?
Yeah, I told part of it.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, if we have time at the end, I can tell the other side. I can tell the previous life.
Alright.
Yeah. Anyway, so Hiranyakashipu, he's living the high life, and he sends Prahlad to school. And the interesting thing about Prahlad Maharaj is even though he's a devotee of Lord Vishnu, he's never disrespectful to anyone. He never considers anybody his enemy. The Bhagavad Gita, it shows that a devotee sees with equal vision. Brahmana, cow, dog eater. And this doesn't mean that they don't deal with people in different ways. But a devotee, actually, they don't see anyone as their friend or as their enemy. They see everybody ultimately. Everyone's a devotee of Krishna ultimately. Everyone is spirit soul. And they see that, okay, this living entity might be misusing their independence. And this living entity might be using their independence correctly. So they make distinctions in that way. But ultimately they see everyone is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prahlad Maharaj is going to school. And one day, like all parents do, when he comes home, Prahlad Maharaj goes to his father, and his father asks him, my dear son, how was school today? What did you learn? Things haven't changed in about 5,000 years, a million years. Parents are still asking the question, what did you learn in school today? Most kids say, I don't know. But Prahlad Maharaj, he tells his father, that first he tells his father, people get entangled in these material affairs and stuff like that, and it's very troublesome. So therefore, you should surrender. You should go to Vrindavan. Tells that to his father the best of the deeds. Hiranyakashipu originally just looks at him and laughs. Oh, he's a small little kid. When kids say something ridiculous. And then he gets mad at the teachers, because normally that's what you do when the small kid says something ridiculous. You get mad at the teachers. And so... therefore he chastises the sons of Shukracharya. And he tells them, why are you teaching him this stuff? Oh, no, we haven't taught him this stuff. It's not us. And they said, okay, we'll make sure that he's protected from any outside influence, that he's not hearing anything separately. So they tried this, and Prahlad Maharaj seems to be learning very well for a while. He's very respectful to his teachers. So later, his mother Kayadu bathes him very nicely, dresses him very nicely, and then takes him to his father Hiranyakashipu, where he again pays his obeisances. And Hiranyakashipu then asks him again, my son, what did you learn in school today? And he says the famous verse, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. And he goes through all the nine phases of devotional service. And then Hiranyakashipu is really upset. He's thinking, how could you side with our enemy? Vishnu is our enemy? He killed your uncle. How could you side with them? It was kind of like, think of it. When there's like a mafia, you have this mafia and then you have the rival mafia, right? So if you're the son of like the head mafia wants to go join the rival mafia, it's not good for him. So, Hiranyakashipu then tells, okay, kill this child immediately. So then Hiranyakashipu's associates, first they tried to stab Prahlad Maharaj with tridents and everything. But Prahlad Maharaj is showing the example that in any material circumstance, because the pure devotee has this mentality of wanting to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they're always hearing about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're really undisturbed in any material situation. And we have had this experience, I think every single one of us, on a certain level, where you're really engaged in hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you're really absorbed in Shravanam and Kirtanam, and then things don't go how you want them to go, but you're not really disturbed by it. You have that experience?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody had that experience, right? So therefore, you're really not disturbed by this. So therefore, Prahlad Maharaj is like this the devotee is like this on the topmost level. No matter any material circumstance, they're not disturbed because they're always in this full concentration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so therefore, when they are not successful in killing him, then Hiranyakashipu decides that he's going to try to kill Prahlad himself, and he can't do so. He tries all these different ways that we read about in Shastra. He tries throwing him off a mountain, and yet Vishnu catches him at the bottom. But notice Vishnu catches him at the bottom of the mountain. So, sometimes in life, we're like, oh, Krishna saved me. Krishna will, but sometimes he's at the bottom of the mountain. You gotta fall down that far. And so he tries all these various ways to kill Prahlad, and even he's unsuccessful. So then the teachers then therefore say, okay, he's just a small boy, give him time, maybe he'll come along. And then so later when Prahlad Maharaj is at school, the teachers step out, and Prahlad Maharaj's friends go to him and say, Prahlad, why are you different than us? Why don't you come play with us? And therefore Prahlad Maharaj then shows the compassion of a pure devotee. And he's wanting to help his classmates. And Prahlad Maharaj illustrates this in a beautiful prayer to Lord Narasimha in the 9th chapter, where he says, wherever I go, I am not afraid of material existence. I am simply concerned with others. Others who are trying to find some happiness in this material world. Because we know this material world, it's what's known as like the planet of death. No matter what we do, everything dies here. And we're eventually all going to leave our body at some point in one day. So it's kind of like coming to the planet of death and thinking, okay, I'm going to try to find happiness here. It's kind of like being in Tucson, Arizona in July and thinking you're not going to find 110-degree heat. It just doesn't happen. So, therefore, Prahlad Maharaj, he starts instructing his classmates about the difference between the body and the soul, and then finding a spiritual master and engaging in this process of devotional service. And he says anyone can do this. And one of his final instructions to his classmates is that regardless of what situation of life one is in, anyone can take up this devotional service. And so therefore they're all convinced by Prahlad, and then they take up devotional service. And then things get really, really, really crazy. Hiranyakashipu gets really angry. And then he goes to Prahlad and he says, how is it that I'm able to control everyone? I'm able to control anything. The demigods, they move in fear of me, but yet I cannot control you. And Prahlad Maharaj tells him, because you have not conquered the 6 enemies. You have not been able to control your senses, Father. Therefore, you've been able to conquer all this, but you haven't been able to conquer this one thing. And Hiranyakashipu is thinking, because he did all this yogic austerity, he's thinking, who are you to say you're more in control of your senses than me? But as Narada Muni told Yudhishthira in the previous verse, Hiranyakashipu had conquered everything, but the ironic thing is, he was still a slave of his senses. So therefore, as I once said previously, this verse illustrates how the Lord's devotee never perishes. So therefore, Hiranyakashipu tells Prahlad, you say your Vishnu is everywhere. Is he in his pillar? And therefore, why doesn't he show himself? If he's everywhere, he hits the pillar, and the Shigita appears. And when the Shigita appears, he comes out of his pillar, and he's all angry. And even the demigods are afraid. But then when he starts to fight Hiranyakashipu is thinking, Vishnu has appeared in this form just to bewilder me. I can take it. You know, sometimes it's like somebody tries to bring a knife to a gunfight. It doesn't work out too well. And so they start fighting. And you know, and Nishimide, when they're fighting, it said that Nishimide lets Hirai Kashipu go. He makes them think you're gonna win. But the demigods are watching, and they've just been kicked out of their home. So they're starting to get an anxiety. Okay, like, come on, like, we thought Vishnu was gonna save us. We were told he was gonna save us. Why is he not saving us? And so therefore, they continue on fighting. This is how Krishna works sometimes. Sometimes he lets other people think, okay, you have the upper hand. And so therefore, they continue on in this battle going back and forth. Kind of like when a father fights for the child. You know, sometimes he lets the child think the child is winning. Oh, you killed me. Like one time I was fighting with my little brother, me and my sister, and we're much bigger than him. We're like, oh, he killed us. And so actually he thinks we're really dead and he called 911. And so,
Called your bluff.
yeah. Yeah, it was a whole thing. And then we had to tell him, no, we're not really dead, nobody's dying. So they're fighting, they're going back and forth like this. And finally, at the appropriate time at dusk, Lord Nishimide grabs Hiranyakashipu, throws him across his lap, and then rips out his abdomen, takes his intestines, and throws them around his neck. And you can imagine Hiranyakashipu is a big guy, so these are big intestines. And then all the followers of Hiranyakashipu therefore then come and try to kill Lord Nishimide. And Lord Nishimide then kills them all. And then, seeing that Lord Nishimide is so angry, all the demigods come and they try to calm him down. You have these beautiful prayers by Brahma, you have these beautiful prayers by Shiva, but none of them work. And then Lakshmi, his wife, they try to send his wife, and she says, no, forget it, I'm going home. And you know, sometimes when you're married, you know, your spouse, you know when not to approach them. But all these people are afraid, but Prahlad Maharaj, he's sitting there, and he's not afraid, he's totally peaceful. Because for the devotees, Lord Nishimide, they're not afraid of Lord Nishimide. Only the demons are actually afraid of Lord Nishimide. So then Prahlad Maharaj, we get to the ninth chapter of the Bhagavatam, where Prahlad Maharaj is saying these beautiful prayers to Lord Nishimide. And out of all the prayers in the Bhagavatam, these are the ones that Prabhupada quotes the most. These prayers that Prahlad Maharaj prays to Lord Nishimide. These prayers are very beautiful. It's really hard to tell which one is better than the other. But there's one in particular that I want to highlight today. And it answers this question, you know, that we go back to. The original question, is God himself impartial? And Prahlad Maharaj prays this prayer in 9th chapter, 27th verse. He says, unlike an ordinary living entity, my Lord, you do not discriminate between friends and enemies, the favorable and the unfavorable. Because for you, there is no conception of higher and lower. Nonetheless, you offer your benedictions according to the level of one's service, exactly as a desire tree delivers fruits according to one's desires. It makes no distinction between the lower and the higher. And then I'm going to read this, it's not too long, but Prabhupada explains this very perfectly. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord clearly says, Yegitam mam prapadyate, tam sataiva bhajamiham. As one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivera Sarupa Hoy Krishna Nityadas. Every living being is an eternal servant of Krishna. According to this service the living entity renders, he automatically receives benedictions from Krishna, who does not make distinctions, thinking, here is a person in an intimate relationship with me, and here is a person I dislike. Krishna advises everyone to surrender to him. Sarva dharma prityaja mami kam sharanam vraja. One's relationship with the Supreme Lord is in proportion to that surrender, and the service one renders unto the Lord. Thus, throughout the entire world, the higher or lower positions of the living entities are selected by the living entities themselves. If one is inclined to dictate that the Lord grants something, one receives benedictions according to his desires. If one wants to be elevated to the higher planetary systems, the heavenly planets, he can be promoted to the place he desires. And if one wants to remain a hog or a pig on earth, the Lord fulfills that desire also. Therefore, one's position is determined by one's desires. The Lord is not responsible for the higher or lower grades of our existence. This is further explained quite definitely in the Bhagavad Gita 9:25 by the Lord himself. Some people want to be promoted to the heavenly planets. Some want to be promoted to Pitraloka, and some want to remain on earth. But if one is interested in returning home back to Godhead, he can be promoted there also. According to the demands of a particular devotee, he receives a result by the grace of the Lord. The Lord does not discriminate, thinking, here is a person favorable to me, and here is a person who is not favorable. Rather, he fulfills the desires of everyone. Therefore, Shastra enjoins, whether one is without desire, or his desires fall through results, or his actual liberation, one should all efforts worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for complete perfection, culminating in Krishna consciousness. According to one's position, whether as a devotee, a karmi, or a jnani, whatever one wants, one can get if one fully engages in the service of the Lord. So, going back to the beginning of the story, Hiranyakashipu was thinking, Vishnu is my enemy. And he was wanting to fight with Vishnu. He was wanting to destroy Vishnu. So therefore, in this form of Narasimha, he's reciprocating with Hiranyakashipu's desire in that way. But simultaneously, as he's also showing that his devotee never perishes. And we see, and it's not just, not just with Prahlad. But what do we see in the very beginning of this story? Narada Muni tells Kayadu, your son is going to be okay. He won't be defeated by an enemy. And then, so Lord Nishigiri is fulfilling the words of his pure devotee, because the Lord always fulfills the words of his pure devotee. Also, we see he appears as Lord Nishigiri, this half-man, half-lion incarnation, because he has another devotee, Lord Brahma. And he's keeping Lord Brahma's benedictions intact. And why is it that Lord Nishigiri appeared out of a pillar? I mean, out of everything else there could have been a flower pot, there could have been a window, there could have been a skylight. Why did he come out of the pillar? Because, anybody have any guess? Oh.
He's supporting the whole universe, I don't know.
The pillar specifically. Because Hiranyakashipu says in a verse, Prahlad, you're telling me that the Lord is everywhere. Why doesn't he appear out of this pillar?
Oh, yeah.
So he's fulfilling the words of Prahlad Maharaj. So this is one of the explanations so that Krishna is saying his devotee never perishes. Is that the Lord fulfills the words of his devotee. It's not that, okay, a devotee never perishes, therefore nobody's going to die. But it could be that the Lord protects the devotee from dying. But eventually everybody in the material body has to give it up. But the Lord protects the devotee by protecting a devotee's spiritual life. So that the devotee never forgets the Lord in situations. And also, the Lord fulfills the words of his devotees. So all these things are happening simultaneously. So we see that with Prahlad Maharaj. The amazing thing in this story is not that the Lord saved Prahlad from dying. I mean, that's good. But the amazing thing that we see here is that no matter what situation Prahlad Maharaj was in, he never forgot Krishna, and he remained peaceful. Being thrown under elephants, being thrown off of a mountain, being thrown in boiling water. And I think Kirtaneshwar brought up in his class that Prahlad Maharaj, he was put on the lap of Holy, or I think her name was, and he was not burned by fire. That's because, Holy, she actually had this benediction that she couldn't be burned by fire. But it said that her benediction did not extend to her to get devotee. So therefore, the benediction was therefore null and void, and therefore she got burned. So therefore, this is one of the things, one of the ways in which we can see that Krishna himself, he's not partial. He's reciprocating with Prahlad. He's reciprocating with Hiranyakashipu. And then the whole pastime ends with Narada Muni telling Yudhishthira, okay, just like Ravana was delivered, just like Shishupar and Karaka were delivered, we know ultimately that this backstory is that Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha are giant Vijay, who took the curse to come to the material world for 3 births as demons so that they could get back to the Lord faster. So at the same time, the Lord's coming to help them, finish up the curse so that they can get back to him quickly. And so the Lord comes and he fulfills the desire, he protects his devotees, and he removes obstacles in this way. Just like for Prahlad, he removed the obstacle of his father Hiranyakashipu. And for Hiranyakashipu, he's removing this obstacle that you have this curse and that you're in the material world. He's helping, get this off. And so just like I mentioned in the beginning, how Srila Prabhupada asked the devotees to pray to Lord Nrsimhadev for his health, that he could complete his mission. And therefore, whatever obstacle Srila Prabhupada was going through at the time, Lord Nrsimhadev removed it. And in the same way for us, Lord Nrsimhadev can remove our obstacles to attaining pure love of Radha and Krishna, which is the ultimate goal. So we can pray to Lord Nrsimhadev in this way. Lord Nrsimhadev, please have mercy on me, and please remove these obstacles. Please remove these anarthas in my heart. There's one of these prayers by Prahlad Maharaj where he's asking that he have no material desire. So a devotee told me once that if you actually pray this prayer of Prahlad Maharaj every day, eventually you will start to not want any material desires in your heart. So Mother Sundami gave me these very nice prayers by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that go along with praying to the Lord for his mercy to develop this loving devotion to Shri Radha and Krishna. And so I'll go through these before we end. And if you guys don't have any questions, I'll tell the other part of Prahlad Maharaj's backstory. But it said here, within my sinful heart, the 6 enemies headed by lust perpetually reside, as well as duplicity, the desire for fame, plus sheer cunning. At the lotus feet of Lord Narasimha, I hope that he will mercifully purify my heart and give me the desire to serve Lord Krishna. Weeping, I beg at the lotus feet of Lord Narasimha for the benediction of worshipping Radha and Krishna and Navadvip, perfectly safe and free from all difficulties. When will this Lord Hari, whose terrible form strikes fear into fear itself, ever become pleased and show me his mercy? Even though Lord Narasimha is terrifying toward the sinful souls, he offers great auspiciousness unto the devotees of Lord Krishna, headed by Prahlad Maharaj. When will he be pleased to speak the words of compassion unto me, of worthless fool, and thereby make me fearless? He will say, my dear child, sit down freely and live happily here in Shigarangadam. May you nicely worship the divine couple, and may you develop loving attachment for their holy names. By the mercy of my devotees, all obstacles are cast far away. With a purified heart, just perform worship of Radha and Krishna, for such worship overflows with sweet nectar. Saying this, the Lord delightedly place his own divine lotus feet on. Will the Lord delightedly place his own divine lotus feet on my head? Will I experience the blind love for the divine couple Radha Krishna and undergo ecstatic transformations called sattvika? Falling on the ground, I will roll about at the door of Lord Nrsimha's temple. So these beautiful prayers, begging for Lord Nrsimha's mercy. And so Prabhupada once told the devotees, that if you can't think of your own prayers to the Lord, you can pray the prayers of our acharyas. You can pray the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, and the Lord will accept them. So therefore, we can take these prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we can take these prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, and pray them to Lord Nrsimhadev. And Lord Nrsimhadev, being very merciful, he will remove the obstacles, the anarthas within our heart, if that is our desire. And therefore, the loving service of Radha and Krishna that will gradually increase in our lives. And gradually we'll start to feel more love, we'll start to feel more attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, we're in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give this love of Radha Krishna. And this is something that is very rare. But we have this opportunity to take it. So by the mercy of Lord Narasimha, hopefully, He will remove our obstacles so that therefore we can further advance in spiritual life. Vansha Kalpatruvisha Kripasindhya. Questions? Yeah.
Just a comment before the backstory. I always love that moment when you mentioned Hiranyakashipu said, if the Lord is everywhere, is he in this pillar?
Yeah.
And then Lord peeps over the top of the pillar. And he shakes his head yes. Yes, he's in the pillar. It's like a little funny humor there.
I know, funny, yeah. The whole, the Leela is actually, I also thought the whole fight was kind of funny, like, they're just like playing like back and forth cat and mouse.
Yeah. So what's the whole story there?
Oh, do you have something you want to say?
Yes. So, kind of question.
Okay.
So based on certain parts that were in your lecture, great lecture, by the way, do or can austerities, or are austerities used for a devotee to draw closer to God or Krishna? Because I realized that I forgot the name of the individual that was doing austerities in your lecture, but right after he performed, while he was performing austerities, Krishna or somebody appeared. Brahma appeared. So are austerities or can austerities be used to draw an individual closer to Krishna?
Yeah, I mean, we do austerities, like,
For that
we
specific-
have, but our austerities, and we have 4 human principles, no meaning, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. So these are austerities within themselves, but it all depends on one's mentality. The mentality that the devotee does these austerities for is that they want to come closer to Krishna. So there are specific austerities that they're geared towards getting out the distractions in their life, getting out these things that will distract them from Krishna. So the 4 regular principles, they help us come to the mode of goodness, so that we're not distracted by passion and ignorance. And therefore, from the mode of goodness, we can transcend to the mode of pure goodness. And so a devotee's austerities are different. Hiranyakashipu's austerities were that he wanted to become very, very powerful and ultimately try to defeat the Lord himself.
So they were like austerities out of selfishness?
Yeah. So it depends. Yeah. So it depends on why is one doing the austerity. Austerity can also make the heart very hard. Unnecessary austerity. So a devotee does austerities, but a devotee does austerities with the purpose of developing love for Krishna. A devotee doesn't do unnecessary austerities, or austerities for themselves.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So anything else, or you guys really want me to tell the backstory?
Well, how long is it?
It's about I can do it. I can say it in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, it's 5 to 9.
Yeah, okay. So, this is in one of the Puranas. It was told to me by my spiritual master. He said the name of the Purana is Narasimha Purana. But anyway, he was explaining that Prahlad Maharaj, in one of his births, he was the son of a Brahmana. And he didn't really follow the rules and regulations of Brahminical culture. And he had a girlfriend. And so one day he goes to the forest because he thinks he's going to kind of enjoy with his girlfriend and they're going to have a good time. But they get into a fight and she leaves, like a little squirrel. And when she leaves, he goes into a Vishnu temple. And he stays the night in this Vishnu temple. And by staying the night in this holy place, therefore, he got some pious activity. So in his next birth, he took birth. The arrangement was made that he took birth as Prahlad Maharaj. And basically, that's kind of like the backstory in a nutshell.
So the downside is that his father was a demon, so that was a result of him messing around and being disobedient to Brahminical culture. It's a mixed birth.
It could be, yeah. I just know that's kind of like one of his backstories that's told.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, thanks for a wonderful class. Is Prahlad an incarnation of Brahma?
I've never heard that.
Okay.
I do know that in Chaitanya Leela he is Vasudeva. Vasudeva, he prays to Lord Chaitanya that he can take the karma of all the living entities so that they can go back to Godhead. And you see this is very much Prahlad Maharaj's mood. One of the prayers he prays to Lord Narasimha is that not only him but everybody else be relieved of their suffering. Yes. So anything else? All right, the Shri Bhagavan ki. Thank you. That was very sweet.